morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. You're out.
I'm out?
No. We're going to play a doubleheader here this morning.
Oh. I thought I got fired and nobody told me.
So, without further ado, we'll hold the kudos for just a few minutes. Let's get right down to introducing our first two guests this morning. We wanted to make some special concessions to a young lady named Karen Swanson contacted us, and they're having something very important out to Eagles, and we thought it'd be appropriate to give them a little time. So go right ahead, Judith, introduce our guest, if you will, please.
Yes. You know, there are those who give and those who take, and I tell you, we've got several on this morning that are givers.
Oh, my.
To the max.
Speaking of giving, I want to say something.
Yes.
The Eagles, Mr. Schaler just told me a few minutes ago, Eagles been very generous to our veterans organization. Very generous. So
yes.
I want to emphasize that.
And we'll ask them to talk about that. They've been working very hard, and they're going to work even harder come Saturday, and probably Sunday and Monday as well. With us today are Kevin Hamblin and Sheri Carter representing the local Eagles 2708, and they're having their Veterans Benefit this Saturday. They're having a schnitzel sandwich with sauce, baked beans, and chips. There's no excuse not to participate because you can dine in, carry out, drive through, or have it delivered. So they've covered the whole waterfront.
Covered the bases.
It's 11 to 7. They have pool and bags tournaments starting at 1, quarter auction at 3, and that directly follows the live auction, and Rod Teeney is going to perform with his band at 7. And the proceeds all go to veterans charities. And bless your hearts. Thank you for being with us today, and tell us a little bit about all the events you have going Saturday, please.
Sheri, ladies first.
The pool and bags tournament will be going for trophies starting at 1 o'clock. Quarter auctions are a lot of fun. That starts at 3, along with a live auction, which will be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And from there, the 50-50 drawing, we're still selling tickets. 6 for $5, 1 for $1. Who knows who the lucky winner will be?
And this isn't your first rodeo, it's your 8th, right?
8th, yes, our 8th annual.
Yes. Good
it was
for you.
Started back, 8 in the thought of helping all the veterans, yeah.
Well, that is so wonderful. Now, you're a veteran yourself, aren't you, Kevin?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yes.
Navy veteran.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No bottom trousers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you look pretty good in that uniform, bud.
Maybe at one time, yeah. I don't think I can fit into it now.
He couldn't even find his hat now today.
No.
Well, what we're talking about this morning, this goes to what I always have said. Nothing happens till somebody makes it happen. Eagles Lodge are making things happen by raising money to go to the veterans organizations. My old 3 words, making a difference. And you certainly are making. So, Kevin, how did you get involved in this?
I got into the Eagles several years ago, just kind of word of mouth. A good organization. They do a lot for the local community, fundraising for various charities, and it was a good fit for me, and so I joined, and just
people helping people.
Yeah, just kind of help.
Well, that's exactly right, Sheri.
Yeah.
People helping people.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting thing about the fraternal orders. If nobody likes to hear an old man talk about the old days, but anyway. In the old days, you were joined, and they have chairs of office in the Eagles Lodge and so forth, and the Moose and the Elks. But you would join an organization. If you wanted to be an officer, you started way down at the bottom of the ladder and worked your way up. Now today we induct somebody in the Elks, and 6 weeks later we want to make them the exalted ruler because you can't get people to serve.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing. And that's it, but it's the truth. So,
well, you've had a lot of people at the Eagles doing a lot of serving. You've raised in your your first 7 years, you've raised $22,000
Yes.
per benefit
That's very significant.
Oh,
for
yeah.
the veterans. That's,
And we
that
always
is-
set a goal, so
Yeah.
we're hoping to exceed that this year.
And Joe Schaler informed me outside the studio here that they just completed the work on Veterans Park. They reworked it there on Union Street, doing a beautiful job. Eagles contacted them, wanted to know how they could help. No, and they never, they volunteered. Came up. That's how can we help you?
And volunteerism is a kind of a dying art. So God love you for doing this.
So let's talk a little bit more this Saturday. What do you want to showcase now? Well, we want to showcase people getting there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Of course, the dinner's
That's the deal. That's
the dinner's
what
the big thing. We're going to start serving at 11 o'clock, I believe, till 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to have a lot of volunteers that day, a lot of hustle and bustle in a kitchen.
Oh, yes. Oh, my.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of a crazy, fast. It's going to be a fun day. And
Actually, people could come twice. They could come
Oh, yeah.
for lunch and
Absolutely.
then come back for supper,
Well,
couldn't
sure,
they?
yeah.
Or let's have people make that their goal.
They pay twice.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the donations have just been flowing. There's people contacting me daily to help out, and
Oh, bless.
we have, I think, 76 baskets, and we're shooting for 100, so
various donations from
Yes.
businesses, Lincoln, Logan County, surrounding counties, Sangamon County, McLean County, small businesses.
the community's really come together to help out.
Yeah.
Just for the nuts of it, when do you start working on this? Because it's so much
We've
work
started
to do.
about, a month ago? 2 months ago?
Oh.
Yeah,
boy.
actually putting together. We
Yeah.
probably had our first meeting several months ago to, to get
Oh,
the
I'm
ball
sure.
rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting your ducks in a row
Yeah.
before somebody shoots them.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what happened to me yesterday. Somebody shot all my ducks.
I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be wonderful, and it's from at the Eagles on 1621 North Kickapoo, and it starts at 11. And come and eat, and come and participate in the tournaments and the auctions. And if you can't have a good time out there, you're never going to have a good time. It sounds
Yeah, it's going
like
to be an all-day event.
It is.
Through the evening. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll surpass our goal from last year,
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job for us. We appreciate that. Is there anything you'd like to say before we take a commercial break now and bring in our other two guests? I want to give you all the ink that you need here, or airtime, as they say, to promote this and make sure.
I would just like to plug in the phone number.
By all
that.
means.
732-2708.
732-2708.
Yep.
And
Anything else?
by the end of Saturday evening, you both will feel like Mary's little lamb dragging your tails behind you, won't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to have Kevin come in because I've known him for a number of years. We had boys in athletic programs in their high school days. Seemed like a long time ago now,
Yeah.
Kevin. So it's nice to have you, and Sheri, it's nice to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the work that you do.
Yeah.
It used to be in these lodges, they were all strictly, they were all male. And then a few years ago, women got on their high horse and says, I'm through with that. I can't get in, nobody can.
Yeah, it wouldn't
So-
be successful without the auxiliary.
But the truth
Doing this.
the truth of the
Yeah.
matter is, without the ladies, not much happens.
Yeah.
So, kudos to you. So
Thank
thank you very, very much. We'll take a commercial break now and bring in Joe Schaler and Danny Benedict. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Go ahead. And we introduce our guest this morning, following the great lady of song, Kate Smith. I remember when Kate Smith, nobody else does in this studio today.
Oh, no, that's not true.
When she first sang that song.
Oh,
Do you remember that? Oh, I didn't think you were that old.
I am. That's why I want a new face.
Why don't you introduce? Well, let's get down to serious business. Now we're going to talk about Kate just a minute.
Go for it.
All right. Our guest this morning, Mr. Joe Schaler, who had done tons on behalf of the veterans since he came back here to Lincoln, Logan County. We sure appreciate that. And Danny Benedict, who was in the courthouse as a veterans assistant, for want of a better word, as a result of Joe Schaler's work to get to form that office, which is something we had years ago after World War II. A fellow named A.J. Berryhill ran that way back. And then after Nobby McLaughlin, I don't think anybody after that. So in any event, Veterans Assistance Commission up there in the courthouse, and excuse me, please, they just do a world of good. And the reason I brought on Kate Smith is I just thought it'd be nice to have something patriotic. Now, the history of that song, Danny, is that, I tell these younger folks, a noted songwriter by the name of Irving Berlin, who penned a number of songs, very exceedingly popular, very popular in the First World War. And he wrote God Bless America during that World War I period, and just kept it in his desk drawer, so to speak. And Kate Smith went to him and looking for a song, and he gave it to her. A song whose rights, would bring tons of money. And he gave it to Kate Smith, and she introduced God Bless America on the radio.
Oh, wow.
Don't ask me why, but I can still remember the name of the announcer, Ted Husing. Now, why would I remember something like that? So, let's get down to serious business here. Tell us, we got Veterans Days coming up. That's what we're talking about. So, Mr. Schaler?
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for... Tell us... Let's just break in for a minute. The new Veterans Park on Union Street. I'd like to talk about that just a minute. It's been there a while, but it needs renovating. Mm-hmm. So tell us the history of the renovation, Joe.
Well, the park, they originally went in 1988, and the All Veterans Park.
Arnie Hawk worked hard on that.
Yeah, and a very nice park. I mean, it just kind of reached a point after almost 30 years where it needed a little TLC. And Melanie, my wife, and I went to the mayor, and what we really started out with was asking if we could put up another flagpole, put a Purple Heart flag on it, and towards the back. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I can come up with ideas. I just don't necessarily know how to do it, but I find people that do. And just like this character right here next to me, I mean, I can't run the office, but he can. So I got Bill Dennis and Gene Hickey and Mike Downing and Jack Bishop involved, and their backgrounds in building trades and such. And it was like, okay, we need to do this and that. And we started looking at the old flagpoles along Union there. They were just leaning every different direction. Mm-hmm. And thought, well, why don't we just redo this and put the flags behind the monument? And so we started cobbling things together using what we could, or they did rather. Mm-hmm. And a couple of weeks ago, we went out there and put in about 2,600 pounds of cement around 7 new flagpoles. And with the idea that we would now display the branches, the 5 branches, the POW-MIA flag and the Purple Heart flag, and then of course the main flagpole that's been there, we put up a new 4x6 American flag up there. So that's kind of become phase 1. We wanted to get finished before cold weather settled in. And then next spring, we're going to start working on replacing the sign with a new sign, do some landscaping, and then the big project will be to go in and try to re-level all the veterans bricks that are in there. Yeah. And there's a lot of them, but try to take those out and put a new base in and reset those. So hopefully by next end of the spring, we'll have a very nice showplace again.
I hope you'll handle my brick carefully.
I will. They will. They will. That's
No, seriously.
that's going to be a very tedious part of the project.
Oh, my,
to do
yes.
that, but it'll get done. It'll
Yeah,
get done.
will be quite tedious because there are a number of. I'm proud to say, Judith, we have my family has 4 bricks in there.
Yeah.
My brother and myself and an uncle and my brother's daughter.
Yeah.
So
Well, when you, for us that have been working on it, and these guys go around and they find people they know in all these bricks, and of course every time you walk through there, you see more and more names, and it's very similar when we were redoing the World War I plaque in the courthouse. Mm-hmm. We spent about 6 weeks doing that, and you just kept looking at those names, and then you started really, okay, I know somebody by that name, and then you hear stories of people who walk by and say, that's my grandfather, that was my great-grandfather, and you start getting this real connection to what you're doing as to who those people are and what they represent. And then that's when you understand that it's a labor of love to do that, because it's an honor to be able to do that at that point. You're showing the respect and honor that they deserve to do that. So just as we're in the process now of finishing up the plaque in the courthouse, that will be dedicated to the War on Terror, global war on terror. So everybody who has served since August 2nd, 1990, correct?
Yes.
Forward from Logan County we're going to start listing their names there, so it'll be right next to the Vietnam plaque on the first floor of the courthouse. So just a lot of little projects going on right now, and
I'm sitting here thinking, gentlemen and Judith, that here we have people working, enhancing monuments, putting up new ones. We've got a bunch of knotheads trying to tear down monuments that have been there forever because
Yeah.
of political
Yeah.
correctness.
Right.
The dumbest damn thing you ever heard of. And you can't begin to comprehend how people think. Well, they don't think, that's a problem. Mr. Benedict, you've been now how long in this new office?
Just a little bit over a year now.
Yes.
You must be plenty busy up there.
Oh, stay very busy.
I'm sure.
That's interesting.
So many people must have so many questions. Things are so complex. You've got to know
Right.
somebody who knows something.
Right. And it's part of the VA's mission is to help the veteran get their benefits that they're due. And the way they do that is to have veteran service officers. We are not affiliated with the VA, but we're accredited through the VA. So that way we are acting on behalf of the veteran with no interests. We're not beholding to the VA whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Often it's kind of an adversarial relationship, trying to get through that bureaucracy and help the veteran get what they need. And, the VA has over 330,000 employees, and
Really?
yes, it's a monster
How
organization.
many are hooked up and pulling anything on the wagon?
Well, hopefully all of them. Hopefully all of them.
Yeah, hopefully
and
all
they've
of
made great strides here with all the attention that they've gotten here recently with some of the different things that were going on with veterans waiting for service.
Yes.
We're seeing claim times when we submit disability claims for injuries that veterans received while in service. We're seeing turnarounds within 2 or 3 months now versus, people were waiting 5 or 7 years in the not too distant past. So, does that mean that the claims are perfect when they're decided? No, but that's where I come in. I'm there to handle the bureaucracy. I'm there to cut through that red tape that the veteran has no idea about.
Do you sleep at night, sir? If your job is to handle the bureaucracy.
Well, a little Tylenol PM helps with that. And so.
648-5510. We have to, this morning here, just prior to Veterans Day, 2 gentlemen who are working on behalf of both veterans themselves. Joe was an URA guy. That's Marines to you folks who don't understand that. And Danny served with the old fella here. in what we call the Army Air Corps
Oh, yeah.
in those days.
Proud heritage.
And I still like it better than the Air Force. But we asked him to come here today because we have Veterans Day coming up here on Saturday. Let's just talk just quickly a minute about the services that are going to come up here. We have a service at West Lincoln, and we have the annual service at the VFW. As I remember it, gentlemen, the VFW handles the Veterans Day, and the American Legion handles Memorial Day.
Yes, sir.
That's the way that works out. And it's important to know the difference between those two. A lot of people kind of confuse them, and so it's important to realize that Veterans Day honors veterans, living and dead.
Yes.
Memorial Day, we remember those who have gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
What we got going here, West Lincoln, and then at VFW. What time is that, Mr. Schaler?
The program's going to start at 11.
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
That would be on.
have a-
That would be on Saturday.
Saturday, the 11th of November. And it's surprising when I have people ask me which day is Veterans Day. I said Saturday, the 11th. Oh, it's on the 11th this year.
It's the 11th.
Oh, it is.
It's on the 11th, and it's Saturday, the 11th. How about that?
The 11th
So,
hour, the 11th
Handy when
day.
it comes together that way, isn't it?
It's funny, that's how it works
It's
out.
interesting, way back when it was Armistice Day on November the 11th.
Yeah.
They always had programs in all of the schools, so what we called assemblies then. They have played military music. The high school band would do their best to get through Philip Sousa's marches.
Yeah.
And kind of a stirring thing at any, even when they play it badly.
Yeah.
And then have a speaker of some note, perhaps. And then promptly at 11 o'clock, Danny, everybody stood in what we call face the east in a moment of silence. That was Armistice Day.
Right.
And then, of course, that changed to Veterans Day in 1954, I think.
Yes,
And
Dwight
it-
Eisenhower, yes.
Right, yeah. Tell me about some of your most pressing problems in the Veterans Office, Mr. Benedict.
I would say right now, one of my biggest problems is just getting access to the VA system. As as an accredited veteran service officer through the VA, I am supposed to have access, read-only access to where I can get in their system and see where the claims are for my clients.
I see.
So I can see if one is maybe kind of stopped somewhere, kind of needing a little bit of help, or if I just have a client that says, hey, it's been a couple months, I haven't heard anything, can you tell me what's going on? If I had access to their system, then I would be able to see where their claim is. But there's been a big problem right now, and it's across the nation, with getting veteran service officers. It's a little card, a little secure card, like the new credit cards, has a chip in it, but it's an ID card basically, and it's a secure way of getting into the VA system. It's called a PIV card, and right now having a very difficult time, veteran services across the nation getting those PIV cards issued to them so they can actually get in there and do their jobs more efficiently. And otherwise, I just have to go through the telephone system and press 1, 2, 3, 4 for about 10 minutes before I can talk to somebody.
Those who, like myself, are lucky and don't have any real problems, can't quite wrap our mind around a veteran who is sick from Agent Orange, or a man who has come home grievously wounded and has problems henceforth and forevermore. Right. So we don't understand the seriousness of what you can do up there to help out those folks, because you're cutting through a lot of red tape, and I've been very lucky. I don't have any problem with the VA. I've been going to Peoria and Springfield and Danville on occasions. Perfectly fine. No problems at all. But for those who have problems, they need an advocate.
Right.
And that's
yes.
what you're up there to do in the courthouse.
Yes, that's my job, to fight for them, to constantly learn as the VA changes their rules and their regulations quite a bit. It's hard enough to keep up with all that and understand the correct processes or to get their claims expedited. You know, there's so many different avenues. Like if a veteran is in the maybe there's a threat of the veteran being homeless if his claim doesn't go through soon enough because of whatever situation, circumstances. Well, there's special hotlines that I can call that only veteran service officers are allowed to call, and it allows claims to be sped through the process a little bit to where hopefully we can keep that veteran in a home and not out on the street. So those are the things that really, you know, you spoke earlier about keep me up at night. Those are the things that really concern me is the veterans that are in dire need. You know, they're barely making it from paycheck to paycheck, and some little box isn't checked on a form because, you know, they tried to do the form themselves and they didn't understand everything, and that's going to delay their next payment for their disability or whatever that they're getting, and that means whether they're going to be homeless or not. So
What were the veterans doing? How did they get help between the time that they closed the office years ago and the time that, thanks to you people, it's open again? How did they ever navigate that minefield?
Well, sadly, more often than not, they would make an attempt themselves and, you know, try to get the forms, and then maybe either not hear back from the VA because the VA lost the paperwork or didn't have enough information to process the claim, or but sadly, most veterans just went without trying to seek any benefits, and that was for a variety of reasons. But the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs does have offices throughout the state, and there's a gentleman, Mr. Richard Bailey. He goes out to the Oasis twice a month, but they've had problems. They had a software problem for which their system was down, and they just got a new system back up, so they were down for 2 months. And if you think about that, that's a long time not to be able to process any paperwork to the VA. So, and that was through some malware that infected their computers. So they had the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs. They had there are other service officers through the VFW and American Legions in large cities or at VA centers. But, you know, if you look at our nearest large VA center is Danville. We have the clinics. You know, we have a clinic in Decatur. We have a clinic in Springfield and Peoria. And nice clinics. I haven't been to the one in Decatur, but Springfield's nice. Peoria's brand new. It's beautiful.
Oh, boy. State of the art there and then some.
But you're not going to find a veteran service officer there. You're not going to find an advocate. You're not going to find somebody that helps you. I mean, and those clinics are designed for the health part. You know, you're going there to get treatment. They don't have somebody there to get you into the system so you can get the treatment. And so that's my job. I'm going to get you into the system. I'm going to do my best to get you that VA health care.
Right.
What about counseling, Mr. Benedict? I'm almost certain that you have people come through your door up there that are in need of counseling.
Yes, sir.
Where do we go to get professional counseling?
I'm glad you asked that. I just had, on Monday, just referred, we have vet centers, which are VA affiliated. The VA runs them, but they're not, they kind of exist away from the VA. We have a vet center in Springfield, and we have a vet center in Peoria. And what their official motto is readjustment counseling for people that have deployed, but they have a very wide interpretation on who they'll see. Basically, as long as you don't have a dishonorable discharge, and even then, they can still see some people with dishonorable discharges. But like I said, they have a very wide interpretation of who they'll see, who they'll counsel. And so we have that in Springfield, and I'll refer people there. I'll refer people to Peoria. But we also have a working relationship with Peoria because we're in their catchment area. That I have a gentleman. His name is Justin, and he's the director up there, at the Peoria Vet Center, and he comes down to Lincoln and actually does counseling either in the courthouse, or we have an agreement with the rec center out there
Good.
next to the high school, and they can get one-on-one counseling there. In the future, we're looking to do some group meetings to where just get some food groups of veterans together, and if nothing else, just have camaraderie, talk about experiences, problems that they're having. When you get a group of people together, you get several different experiences, and you can problem solve, you can work through things through their experiences. And
the people that you're with understand where you're coming from. You three could get together and discuss things, and you understand where each other are.
right.
Where I wouldn't know all that I should know about it.
Right.
And so that's comforting to people. We hear PTSD a lot, and I don't know that we probably haven't had that phenomena since we've had armies. Don't you suppose?
Yeah, in World War I, it was called shell shock.
Shell shock, yes. Battle
And battle
fatigue.
fatigue that came up along our era.
Yes.
And now, Joe, just the other day I happened to come across I want to get this book and read it. Underneath the Bamboo. Are you aware of that? It's written by a Vietnam veteran in central Illinois. The gentleman lives here. I can't remember where. But I just happened to find out about that book. He had considerable experiences going down into the tunnels and so forth. I'm going to get that. Because now, how long were you in Vietnam?
13 months.
And you came home with a little Agent Orange problem. Not a little one. I don't mean to say that little.
Yeah.
A major Agent Orange problem. Those are the things that none of us can really comprehend. We don't understand that.
Right.
That was what we called collateral damage, when our own troops were collateral damage.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just, that's one of those things that when we were trying to get this VAC put together, that you had to have some motivation to want to go through all the hoops to do that. And I had a lot of motivation because I knew there was a lot of people who were going through the same thing. And as Dan was saying, some were trying to get care and got none, trying to get claims processed and didn't. And you start running into a lot of things that came up, that a very negative feeling towards the VA system at that point, that if they can spin it long enough on a claim, eventually the claim goes away because you're going to die.
It just goes where you die, right? Yeah.
So delay and deny and wait till you die. And when you have millions of veterans that big lump there from Vietnam trying to file all these claims, and into this enormous bureaucracy, it becomes very easy for paperwork to get lost, or as he was saying, this wasn't marked, and the next thing you know, it's a year, it's 2 years, it's 3 years. And I've stood at the grave the last several years of 3 commanders, post-commanders who have died from Agent Orange, all in their early 70s. And so you don't need a lot of motivation to keep pushing for that. So it's, and the PTSD, we've just decided to come up with a new clinical name for something that's been around for thousands of years. It's since the first battle was ever fought. We just now have a good technical name for it. And then we have 400 reasons why you do or don't actually qualify for it. Because most of the people you're talking to have never experienced it, don't really get it, and they try to come up with these measurement tools that sometimes seem pretty primitive, and but it's been around forever. We just decided
Yes, I'm
to give it
sitting
a
here
name.
thinking, when I was a grade schooler, had a Spanish-American war veteran, John Wiley by name, and he had what would be known today as PTSD. post-traumatic disorder distress.
Yeah.
And we called him Goofy John because he was goofy.
Right.
Didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We weren't being nasty or kind. It was just, he was kind of funny to us, and
Right.
we'd laugh about Crazy
Exactly.
John.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't very funny to him, you know.
No.
Let me talk about Agent Orange just a minute, if I may, Joe. Is that all right to go to that subject?
Sure.
Tell us what Agent Orange does to your body.
Well,
Don't get too graphic.
for most of us that have gone through this, it usually the most prominent things are prostate cancer, liver cancer, bladder cancer,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it will, skin cancer. But it tends to, if you think you have one area cured, it moves to another area, and it moves to another area, and unfortunately, we've now lost more to Agent Orange than we did on the battlefield.
Now that's a statistic which is hard for the person on the street to understand.
Yeah.
Think of this as a defoliant that, you go to Walmart and you buy a little weed killer bottle and it's got all these warnings over it, and you go outside, you spray this little piece of grass, and it takes 10 times to kill it. Just one little sprig of weed. This was the stuff that they sprayed. It killed trees, it killed bushes, it killed every living organic thing. And it was sprayed all over. These gentlemen had to walk through it. They had to sleep on it. They had it sprayed over their heads. And if you think about the little stuff that has all those warnings in the Walmart stores and everything, imagine how caustic and how just terrible this stuff was. If it's killing everything it touches, and these poor soldiers had to fight through that.
Wasn't Vietnam a whole different ball game, though?
Oh my.
Or was I
Oh, my,
maybe
yes.
more aware because I had a brother and 2 brothers-in-law over there?
Well, I don't care what war it is. War is
Hell.
well, that's exactly. But I do think, not knowing anything about it at all except observing and reading, listening, that the Vietnam War was a nastier, much more nasty war, physically.
Yes.
I slept out on cold ground in Europe, and that wasn't much fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't begin to compare. What and also a different enemy.
Very different. Yeah, we were not equipped. We were essentially the British and the French during the Revolutionary War, and the Vietnamese were the Minutemen. They were hiding behind the trees and ambushing us, and we were trying to fight a textbook war, and they were fighting a guerrilla war. You can't win that. You can't win that.
Civilian farmers by day, Viet Cong by night,
Yes.
and your rules of engagement. Obviously don't harm the civilians.
That's what my brother-in-law said. He said they'd cut your hair by day and your throat by night.
Exactly. And
Mr. Benedict, do you see much of post-disorder distress coming through your office? Or?
Yes, PTSD. I see quite a bit of it, actually. And a lot of people, I'll sit down and talk to them about their experiences deploying, the different things that they went through in Afghanistan, Iraq, bombs going off on the side of the road, their buddies dying right there in their arms while they're, being engaged by the enemy and trying to fight back and trying to save their buddy's life. And there's just many different ways that people could be affected by that, and they don't think they have PTSD. They're waking up soaking wet, sweating through the nights. They're shaking. They're very short fuses. They're not able to be in crowds. They always have to sit with their back to the wall. I mean, some of that is taught as good force protection. Know your surroundings. A good soldier Marine, Airman.
Watching the back.
Yeah, you watch your back. That's part of being in the military. But they have now been out of the military for 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, and they're still doing it. It's called hypervigilance. And has such an effect on their daily lives. Many of them have gotten divorces. If you like to think of it, as we go through our life, there's a certain level that we operate on. They're on a level that is so much higher. That is their normal operating level, to where they're always just ready to, okay, the proverbial stuff's going to hit the fan, and that's their normal. So they're always hyped up. They're always ready for something terrible to happen. And yet they don't even think that they have PTSD. That's their normal. So that's where the counseling comes in. That's where, talking to people and talking to other veterans. It's like, well, yeah, I went through that, and I went through some counseling, got a little bit of medication. Some people don't want to take medication. That's fine. But it does help with the counseling. And so it's my job is to try to facilitate to get them to talk to somebody that's gone to school, learned about the signs of PTSD. I mean, nobody taught you in school about PTSD, the signs of it. No. So how would you know? You went over there, you did your job, went through some terrible, terrible things, and you came back home, and you're just like, okay, I'm ready for my normal life. Well, you've got some stuff to deal with.
You can't transition that quickly, can you?
No, and sometimes never.
Joe,
Yes.
Union
I'm awake.
Union Street. Don't go to sleep on me, Joe. Union Street, that nice Veterans Park there, that took some money. You got some help from the Eagles Lodge and whatever else. What'd you have to spend on that, sir? Quite a bit of money, which we appreciate.
I would have to kind of guess at this point we probably only spent just maybe $300 or $400 so far. Next year will be in the spring when we put up the sign. That'll probably be the most costly expense that we have. And we have, as I said before, been very blessed with people that have been donating funds besides the Eagles and some businesses. Came back from a funeral with the Honor Guard at the Legion a couple of weeks ago, and a young man I've never seen before or since was sitting in there. He was in the bar area there, and the bartender stopped me and said, "This young man wants to talk to you for a second," and introduced himself and said his mom lived near the park. She had seen all that work being done. So, here's a donation. He laid $5 $20 bills down.
How neat.
Bless his heart.
And, we've just had people coming up doing that. And it's just like, thank you. And scribbled his name and a phone number down so we could send him a thank you. And we've been so blessed to have people just show up and do that. So it's giving back to the community, trying to do some things that represent the veterans, honor the veterans, but enhances the community at the same time. Because I'm proud of the county, I'm proud of this community and what they're all trying to do. Elkhart's starting to work on theirs. I was talking to one of their representatives yesterday about maybe some things we can do next summer to help them out there. Get their Doughboy redone for World War I just in time for the 100th anniversary. And I'd put one more plug in here before we're done here, that in August, when we have our balloon festival, our Logan County Balloon Festival, this year is going to be centered on honoring veterans.
How neat.
So we're going to be bringing a number of, hopefully some balloons in, and we're really going to be pushing hard to try to get a lot of veteran organizations involved in this one. So we're very honor to and grateful that the Chamber and Tourism are working to
I think
center
that
this around veterans this year.
there's more awareness right now of the respect that is due the veterans of this country for what they have done for us. We had the Jane Fondas, and now we have the people who are tearing down the memorials.
My
But-
blood pressure just went through the sky, and besides that, the clock says better quit, Bill.
Jim's still smiling.
Well, Joe Schaler and Danny Benedict, we appreciate your being here on behalf of all of the veterans in the various wars. Some of the older veterans are kind of getting along in the tooth, and they'll not be around. So one of these days, we're going to come in Logan County, and we're only going to have Korean veterans, no more World War II veterans. That's just the inexorable march of time. We always try to close with some comment, and old Albert Einstein, pretty bright old guy, and it sure is appropriate because it talks about one word, understanding. Peace cannot be kept by force. We all know that, of course. It can only be achieved by understanding, a commodity that seems to be in great lack here today. Thank you very much, Danny Benedict and Joe Schaler.
Thank you.